Just like the classic song by Queen and the late, great Freddie Mercury, the Pac-12 is under pressure. That's the theme of this video. The Pac-12 is under pressure, and the pressure is heating up for them to get a media deal done. Why is that? It's because they keep kicking the can down the road, and they keep delaying. And at some point, it's going to come back to bite them. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and let's talk about it. What is up, college sports fans, Big 12 fans, and fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Couz. Welcome into another edition of Couz's Corner. So pull up that chair and let me serve you up this shot of top-shelf college football content. On tap in today's episode, we are talking once again about the Pac-12 media deal and where things stand. First of all, the idea to get to relate this topic of the show to a song, got to give credit for that idea to my good friend, the Outlaw of College Football. I recommend you go check his channel out. So let's dig in. The Pac-12 media deal continues to be delayed. An article came out in The Athletic yesterday. I'm recording this on Friday, April the 7th. Yesterday, April 6th, an article was written by Max Olson and Stuart Mandel. The article appeared in The Athletic. Now, I'm not going to go over the whole article with you, but I will put a link to it in the description box. But what I'll do is go over some bullet points and highlights from the article and give you my thoughts on it. All right, the first highlight I want to touch on is the main point of this article, and that was now sources are telling Max Olson and Stuart Mandel that the Pac-12 media deal now will not be done likely until late spring or early summer. I mean, we've been hearing for weeks now that a deal would be done. First, we were hearing March. I think we even heard a March date. Then we were hearing April 15th. Then we were hearing, I think we've heard into April. Now we're hearing late spring, early summer. I mean, we could be in June or July before we see something out of the Pac-12 as far as a media deal goes, folks. I mean, their messaging has been totally off, and that can't be a good sign. There have even been Pac-12 presidents come out and say, we're close to a deal. A deal is imminent. We've heard those kind of phrases. The Pac-12 media has been saying a deal's close. That's all we've heard, but yet it keeps getting delayed and delayed and delayed. Now, that one of the sources or that source also said the comments about a deal being close were overly optimistic. They're admitting that now. Hey, we were overly, the folks who came out and said that were being overly optimistic, and we're not that close, basically. Now, we did have the Utah president come out and say they weren't close to a deal. He's been one of the only ones that have really said that. I think there was maybe one more that said, I think the Arizona president actually said that in his last interview as well. But before that, he was saying they were close. But he had to change his tune a couple weeks later. And why else would he do that unless things were going south? I don't see any other reason to. Now, another piece of this article that was interesting is the fact that the CW network, who's owned by Nexstar Media, is apparently now in the running to be a potential partner with the Pac-12. Now, CW, a lot of people have been making fun of that on Twitter, but it could be reasonable here. Nexstar owns, I think they have like close to 100 or maybe even over 100 different stations throughout the country. So they could get the Pac-12 on TV across the country if they do this deal. And it's been reported that CW is wanting to get more into the live sports coverage. They've recently signed a deal with Live Golf. Now maybe they get in with the Pac-12. We'll wait and see where that goes. And maybe that's part of the reason for this delay. I don't know. In this article, Olson and Mandel pointed out that it's not time to panic for the Pac-12 because there's still time. They still have 15 months to get a deal done. And that the time is not necessarily as big of an issue as the number is. Can they get at least close to the $31.6 million that the Big 12 got in their deal, $31.6 million per team, that is, that the Big 12 got in their deal? But I'm going to take that further and say that I think exposure is just as important, if not more important, than the money. We've even heard the Arizona president, Robert Robbins, come out and say he would not be happy with anything more than 50% streaming. And right now, the way this thing's been going, unless they can do something here with the CW, maybe along with ESPN, who doesn't seem to want a lot of games, maybe they can do this without going more than 50% streaming. But, it's going to yet to be determined. Problem is the Pac-12 is running out of leverage here. Now, according to Olson and Mandel, they spoke to 7 different industry sources to get the info for this article. 7 sources. So to me, that blows the idea of some kind of conspiracy out of the water. You've got 7 different people sharing this information, okay? Not just one, not just 2, 7. But they pointed out that it's obvious. One of these sources pointed out that it's obvious that Kliavkoff is not concerned about the 4 corner schools leaving just yet. They threw the word just yet in there. And because he's not worried just yet, he doesn't seem to mind delaying the deal. Now, this is a quote. Just under that statement, there was this quote. However, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark has recently met with multiple presidents of Pac-12 schools looking to explore their options. A person briefed on the meetings said, I'm going to read that again. However, Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark has recently met with multiple presidents of Pac-12 schools looking to explore their options. A person briefed on the meetings said. But multiple presidents have met with Yormark, according to this source. And one of the reasons they gave for taking so long to get a deal done, and it's something that's came up on this channel before, the fact that these streaming companies that are in the running to get part of this deal, they don't have experience negotiating college athletics sports packages, college sports packages. Only thing they have experience with is either professional soccer or, in the case of Apple, Major League Baseball. The college sports space is new to them. And I do understand that as someone, like I said in previous shows, I have done a small amount of work with contracts in my career. And if you have a template to go on, it makes it a lot faster. All you've got to do is make a few minor changes, maybe do an addendum, get both parties to sign off on it. Boom, you're done, right? Sometimes you can do it in a day, sometimes, or at least a few days, not weeks or months. But if you don't have a template, you've got to get more attorneys involved. You've got to write the agreement. Then you got to have everybody look over it with a fine-tooth comb multiple times. Might be multiple addendums, so on and so forth. Now, another key part of this that doesn't look good for the Pac-12 is the mixed messaging by presidents has contributed to a sense of disarray within the Pac-12. You've had the Utah president say, we're not in a hurry. You heard the Arizona president say, I'm not in a hurry, but others in the room are. You heard him change his tune, like I mentioned earlier, about, hey, we're close to a deal. Then now he's saying we're not. Washington State president has said they're close to a deal. Oregon State's president has said they're close to a deal. I mean, we've heard from all of these different sources saying they're close to a deal. And they're not. They're not. There's a divide in the room between those who want the deal done quickly and those who are being patient. And that divide has been pointed out on this show before. I mentioned in a few episodes back about Arizona State. My friend Greg Pflugar over on his channel, College Football Speaker Around the Corner, has gotten has gotten letters by folks who are donors to Arizona State, and they're not happy about what's going on. They are not happy about what's going on at Arizona State, regardless of what you might see and hear out of Pac-12 country. Behind the scenes, Arizona State is not happy, folks, and they're not patient. They're one of the ones that are not happy with how long this is taking. Now, along those lines, you've got that situation, the Arizona State situation, where they're not happy how long things are taking. You've got the mixed messaging coming out of the Pac-12. You've got the fact that now it's going to be late spring, early summer before they get a deal. You've got remember the ESPN situation. You've got ESPN and Disney with their financial situation. Doesn't mean they're ruled out of the deal, but it means they're probably not going to pay much money for it. But you've got all these things working against the Pac-12, and it's continuing to get worse. And what makes it even more concerning, back to the Arizona State issue, is this. Another letter that Greg Pflugar shared on his show recently, on a recent show, which I'll link to in the description box, said that another thing has changed with Arizona State. They are no longer apparently joined at the hip with Arizona. Early on in this process, we've seen reported that Arizona and Arizona State, neither would leave the conference without the other one. Apparently that's changed now, at least according to this donor at Arizona State. They are now willing to leave the Pac-12 even if Arizona does not. They're not tied to the hip with them. Okay? Another interesting bit of information out of this letter was that if Arizona Arizona and Arizona State leave for the Big 12. Oregon and Washington will not stick around if they add G5 schools like San Diego State, SMU, whoever. And he also said this. Now, this is a big deal. Nobody in the room, meaning all the presidents, nobody in the room believes Oregon and Washington are sticking around. Oregon and Washington seemingly have one foot out the door, wanting into the Big Ten, and everybody in the room knows it. Another thing in this letter that the Arizona State person said was every time expansion gets discussed as part of a risk-filled media deal, and by risk-filled, I'm sure he means high streaming, more than 50% probably, all reasons to not join the Big 12 melt away, except for political ones. As always, politics is rearing its head in our sports. You've got these presidents or these chancellors or these board members or whatever, maybe even donors at some of these Pac-12 schools who think they're too high and mighty to leave the conference to go to the Big 12 because the Big 12's, their academic rankings aren't high enough for us. We're better than they are. That attitude is getting ready to cause them to get left in the freaking dust, man. They better get off their high horse, and they better do it fast. Another thing in that letter that this booster talked about was, unless you're in the SEC, it will be hard to compete in a regional conference. I think there's a certain conference commissioner out there who has said he wants to make his conference coast to coast. I think his name is Brett Yormark. We've already seen the Big Ten try to go national. That's where things are going, apparently. And the Arizona State donor thinks that that's the way to go, and he doesn't think the Pac-12 can be competitive unless they do that, or at least his school joins a conference that is. Also mentioned that it will be hard for Arizona State to stay relevant when you have Texas Tech just a few states over who has athletic advantages over them. Think about it. You've got little tiny Lubbock, Texas, a school in little tiny Lubbock, Texas, and I don't mean that as an insult at all. I'm from West Virginia, for crying out loud. I live in a small town. But you've got little tiny Lubbock, Texas here who will have an athletic advantage over a school in Phoenix, Arizona, one of the largest cities in America, all because their conference can't get a media deal done, or at least a lucrative media deal done, or one that gives them the exposure they need to stay relevant. So, and then I'm going to add this to the equation, folks. Our good friend Jason Scheer, who covers Arizona for 24/7 Sports, had this to say on Twitter. First, you had him tweet out. He retweeted or quote tweeted the article from Stuart Mandel, and in his comment, he said, "As we mentioned on Wildcat Authority a few weeks ago, Robbins has met with Brett Yormark. Those discussions will get more serious with no deal in sight." Goes back to the article. They said Pac-12 presidents have met with Brett Yormark recently. There's one example. There's another one. Right after that, Scheer put out this tweet. Yormark also met with Colorado for 5 hours in the last few weeks. Enjoy your night. Hashtag Scheer out. I'm going to read that again to you, folks. Yormark has also met with Colorado for 5 hours in the last few weeks. We've not heard hardly a peep out of Colorado, at least not in the last couple of months. They've been eerily quiet. And, I hate to speculate too much, but that could mean that something's brewing on the Colorado front, the Big 12 front. Maybe Colorado's coming home. So maybe Arizona and Colorado are the first two to leave. Who knows? Maybe Arizona State, we see how frustrated they are. Maybe they join them. I don't see Utah leaving, honestly. I don't think they want to. I think Utah will hang on as long as they possibly can. They seem to have zero interest in joining the Big 12. So I think you're looking at possibly getting Arizona, Colorado, maybe Arizona State, and then maybe they get Gonzaga for basketball only. You add 4 members, 3 for all sports, 1 for basketball only. That gets you to 16 members, which would be equal to the Big Ten and the SEC as far as membership goes. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments section. What do you think about the article in The Athletic And what do you think about this letter from the Arizona State donor and about what Jason Scheer had to tweet out about this situation? I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. Folks, if you want to support me here on the channel financially, you can do that in several ways. You can get yourself a shirt or a coffee mug from my merch store or a hat or whatever. Link is in the description box, or you can click one of the photos below the description box. That'll take you right into my store. You can check out the link to Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. Happy to be partnering with Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters here on the channel. Get you or go online and order you some great, smooth, all-natural coffee that's made with hand-picked coffee beans. They have several different flavors to choose from. Or you can just get your normal medium roast or dark roast coffee from Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. Check out that. And if you put Couz's, C-O-U-Z' in the comment section when you make your order, it will help out my channel. You can check out my Fanatics link to do your Fanatics shopping. You can hit the heart thanks button right below this video, make a one-time donation. You can join my channel, become a member by hitting the join button below, take advantage of the perks that has to offer. Last but not least, you can support me free in 4 ways. You can like the video, share it out with your friends, drop a comment below, and subscribe to my channel. Help me get to my goal of 5,000. Last time I looked, I was only 23 subscribers away from 5,000, folks. Please help get me over the hump. Help me get to 5,000. And with all that being said, I really appreciate you tuning in. And until the next time, Q Country Roads.